You're listening to the podcast for all of the news, notes, and breakdowns for your Ohio State Buckeyes. This is Sons of the Shoe with Nick Wilson and Spencer German.
We are back. We are back. Sons of the Shoe is back. Nick Wilson, Spencer German. Spencer, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Nick. Just getting ready for the holidays. Getting ready for some Buckeyes football coming up next Friday. You know, it's that time of year. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Bowl season, Christmas season, you can't beat it.
Have you reached gift panic level yet, where you're not sure if everybody's getting equal gifts or that you've gotten people the right amount of gifts, or if you've forgotten someone? Because that hit my house this morning, so my anxiety levels are through the roof.
I feel like I always get to like these next couple days, or like really like yesterday, the 21st, and you're like, I still got a couple days left to figure some things out. And then you realize you're missing a thing or two, and you're like, but I actually this year I think I did okay. I haven't wrapped everything yet, but I think I have everybody accounted for. So I guess that's the most important thing. Now it's just about like figuring out, we're kind of doing a split thing because we're going to my parents for part of Christmas. Or for actual Christmas, but we're doing like a pre-Christmas thing at my wife's mom's house. So it's kind of like, what gifts are we taking there versus what gifts are we taking here? What are we going to be able to fit in the car? So that's more what I'm stressing about right now. But yeah, I'm with you that it's always this time of year that it hits you. You forgot something.
So I have been in this Zen state because I finished shopping for Vanessa as quick as I ever have. Like, this bleep was done December 10th, Spence. Okay, you gotta understand, I'm a December 23rd guy when it comes to shopping. So I have been living in this blissful, unstressed bubble. And my daughters are out at my mom's for the next couple of days, kind of doing like a Christmas hangout session with grandma and grandpa. And, you know, Ness this morning, you know, we wake up and Vanessa goes, I don't think we have enough for one of our kids. And dude, it like, I don't know if your wife is this way. Obviously, you guys got one kid. I got three. My wife is obsessed. With making sure all three daughters have the same amount of shit. And I can't handle it.
I definitely think that's a normal thing, though. I think my parents would do the same thing. They always try to balance it out. Or I know as the little man, the little man's trying to
bring him on. Come on. Hey, we could use a third host. Can he cut up sound? Where's he at?
Let me producer. My wife came down and grabbed him, unfortunately, so no appearance for now. But he was trying to creep on what he's getting for Christmas, I guess. I don't know.
Smart man. That's a smart game right there. That's distracted.
He heard us talking about Christmas. He was like, "Oh, I want to hear what I'm getting."
Yeah.
No, I think that my parents are always big on, if one of us was getting like a really big gift, they would always be like, well, just so you know, like, you only got like one big gift and they got a couple other smaller ones. So like, I understand. I think the balance thing is very true. As you have more children, I don't have to worry about that yet, but down the line, that would be, I'm sure, a conversation we have in our household too.
So true story. And I got to tell this story, and we will get to Ohio State football here in just a moment. When I was 4 years old, my parents did not have a lot of money when I was growing up. And my parents really did everything they could to make Christmas this great thing for these, two little poor kids. And when I was 4 years old, my sister was about a year and a half older than me. We got all our gifts, and dude, we got for like my parents could barely make like rent that month. And my parents went all out for us. And my older sister looked up at my parents and said, is that it? And my dad was like the sweetest man. My dad never, he could be a little dramatic, but my dad very rarely snapped, and my dad snapped. And so anytime we talk about who's got more gifts or who got more money spent on them, dude, my anxiety levels, it triggers. It's been 34 years, and I still have not recovered emotionally from this Christmas moment. So anytime Vanessa's like, I don't think we got Livy enough, I'm just like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. Somebody get me my glaucoma medication. I can't handle this.
There was one year I made a comment about a gift I got. I want to say it was like a random. I was like a teenager. I think my mom got me like this tie. It was like this Christmas themed tie. It had like Christmas trees on it or something. And my mom always used to tell me that if it's a really good tie if like the pattern is cut like perfectly on the sides. And so I think I made some comment about like, oh, this one's not cut the way that you always try to do. And she got so upset. I felt terrible. Like I think back to that day and I want to cry because I'm like, I made my mom go sob for like like the rest of the day. She was just so sad. And I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. It was just like we had conversations about that, and I just made the comment offhand, and I didn't mean it to like offend her. But
so the upside to both of these traumatic experiences are we both learned at a young age to be very thankful for what you got.
Yes.
And just smile. Even if you don't like it, just smile and be thankful that somebody spent their hard-earned money or their hard-borrowed money on you. And that is the true meaning of Christmas, not being an a-hole when somebody gives you a gift. Now,
unless they regifted it, then you can. Then if you know they regifted something, then it's fair game to be like, yeah, it's.
At which point they're just bad at giving gifts. If they let you know that they're regifting it, they're the asshole. That's just reality. Now, Ohio State, they got a gift in their recruiting class here, and that was the weirdest transition ever. But look at the breakdown here. I can't remember the exact. I think it's 20 kids signed their letter of intent here in the early signing window, and 7 kids from Ohio, 3 from Texas. They got a quarterback, Aaron Nolan. They got 2 running backs, 4 receivers, 4 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, 6 defensive backs, 1 linebacker, and a special teams player here. But the long-awaited nightmares did not come true because Jeremiah Smith affirmed his commitment, put pen to paper for Ohio State as Ryan Day staved off those Seminoles of Florida and Miami Hurricanes at the last minute. Mylan Graham, another 5-star wide receiver, put pen to paper. And then Edric Houston. And the Edric Houston stuff was pretty wild there, Spencer, because it went from he's signing with Alabama to about 20 minutes later, he's signing with Ohio State. It was a roller coaster, but the 4 biggest recruits, the 2 5-star wide receivers, Edric Houston, the edge rusher, and Aaron Nolan, all signing on the dotted line. So the nightmare can now be put to bed that we're going to have some mass exodus. Like, let's say what's going on with USC right now.
Yeah. I thought that, let me say this. I actually thought that following along with signing day was almost more stressful from like a fan perspective than watching, let's say, like that last drive against Michigan a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if it's like, well, Michigan's on the schedule again next year, so there'll always be another chance or whatever. Or maybe I've gotten used to the idea that maybe I wrapped my head around the idea that Michigan was going to beat Ohio State. So it was like, I've kind of accepted the fate already. But you're sitting there and you're seeing all these rumors and you're seeing all these reports about this kid's going to flip and this kid's not going to flip. And you see the picture of Jeremiah Smith sitting there at his high school, and he's got like this big leather bag next to him, and it's like, oh boy, is he going to pull some stunt here and suddenly pull out like a Seminole hat or something like that and become like say he's going somewhere else? So you just don't know. Like it's a high stress day. It's for I'm sure like I'm just picturing it from my perspective as a fan. I can only imagine the intensity level that people like Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and people within the program are feeling as they hope that they've done everything they can to convince these kids like this is the place for you, come here. And then at the last second, they might just go out there and say, yeah, never mind, we're going to go somewhere, or I'm going to go somewhere else. So, and it kind of made for a good live moment from Ryan Day, which I know we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, I mean it was stressful, but to see it all kind of come together, I think was encouraging. I know you had Albert Breer on your show Afternoon Drive on 92 The Fan on Thursday, and he mentioned there's only like 8 5-star recruits that are even going to the Big Ten, and 5 of them are going to Ohio State. Like that's pretty telling of where this program is at, the level that they're at. They're still recruiting at a high level, even in this NIL era. And I think that's obviously really, really good to see. It was encouraging to end the day with the names they had. I think for me, the big one, Jeremiah Smith, of course. but to not lose Edric Houston was massive. There's more of a conversation I want to have off of that, but I'll leave it there for now. And that I think if he had flipped, I would have been very panicked, I think, even with the other recruits coming in, about this class overall.
I'm really surprised with the amount of sports content being produced in 2023. I'm like borderline shocked nobody's found a way to package the early signing day drama into something akin to the NFL draft. And listen, the NFL draft that's just been building for 30 years. What a spectacle that ESPN has turned this in, 40 years even. But like, I just think, whether it was Ryan Day's reaction, which we'll get to in a moment here, whether it was Jeremiah Smith with a bag, whether it was Edric Houston's flip-flop there, and that's just Ohio State, by the way. That's three things that came out of, and oh, by the way, you lost one of your other wide receiver commits to Oregon at the last second, kind of your rare flip on National Signing Day. Like, I'm just surprised nobody's turned this into just vintage content and a way to make money off this, because I think the only thing that stops National Signing Day from being even bigger, one, they should put on a Tuesday, which is the off day in the NFL. So that's just scheduling pragmatics. And then two, I think just having somebody cobble together and go, hey, these are the 20 biggest storylines in college football. These are the 20 biggest recruits. We're going to try and schedule it all so we can go Jeremiah Smith's announcements, into Aaron Nolan's announcement, into Edric Houston. Like, I kind of think it would be like amazing if they did something like that.
It's a good idea, actually. Maybe that's a lane that we could carve out with this show, Nick. Go national, go around and go interview these people, these kids as they're making their decision. We make it a thing. I don't know. Can we get like 20 people on staff to outsource to each location so they can talk to them after they make their announcement, like we get at the NFL draft? I don't know. There might be a path here. We'll see.
Look at that. There's the future of the show. Now, you mentioned Ryan Day's reaction. So, Ohio State head coach, I don't know why I set it up like that. You know where he coaches. Ryan Day was doing his press conference in Columbus on Wednesday, the first day of the early signing period. And he found out on the dais where Jeremiah Smith was going to end up.
Really?
Yeah, it's real. It's real. There's pictures, video. I'm nervous for you. Yeah, if you want to take us through your emotions real quick, how you feeling? The floor is yours. You got to address that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everything's in yet, Jerry. You got to check to make sure it's in.
Hey, Mike, want to check with Justin?
Yeah. Before I do something to get myself in trouble.
You're still flipping right now, though? What's going on?
It's been flipping for a while.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. What was the question?
Actually, I think you had answered. Talking about.
So, a lot of people have been reacting to that video. One, I think it's pretty obvious that Ryan Day was being a little playful there, but you could there is a palpable sense of relief. But when it comes to there are people like legitimately debating, both on our station and other stations. Oh, was he really close to fainting? No, you dumbasses. He was playing up the moment. It was a moment of levity because it was relief in there for not just himself, but for Ohio State fans.
By the way, video and audio courtesy of Buckeyes Now. I want to give a shout out to the source where I got it. But anyway, I think that I thought it was a cool moment because I think, well, first of all, I do think at times Ryan Day comes off very like robotic anyway. And so for him to sort of give you a peek behind the curtain as to who he is and just the stress level that he's been going through as he dealt with all the transfer portal stuff and recruiting stuff, I did think it was cool to sort of have that. I don't know. I always get a kick out of seeing coaches like in their element as people and the emotional side of things. It's why when you see Kevin Stefanski, we talk about here in Cleveland with the Browns, like when you see him give those emphatic speeches in the locker room after a game, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this guy swears a little bit. That's cool. Like I didn't know that about him.
That's still a weird reaction, by the way, because Kevin Stefanski's not good at cursing.
That's fair.
Like,
That's
he
fair.
curses the way, like, my youth pastor used to be like, oh, God darn it. Like, oh, God darn it, he died for your sins.
I've also
like,
noticed it's gotten more and more as they've won more games. Like, he was kind of like keeping it more mellow. It'd be like one word here or there. And then this past week, it was just like F-bomb every 5 words. Anyway.
Like, if Kevin Stefanski ends up winning a playoff game, it's gonna be like
the episode of South Park where they broke the record for the most like F-bombs in an episode or whatever.
It's either that or it's gonna be like Cat Williams on the coke. He's just gonna be effing here and effing there and effing that and hose and all that. Yeah.
Oh man, but no, I always appreciate those moments. I do think, to your point, he probably played it up a little bit more. I don't think he was actually going to faint, but you could tell there was like a real sense of relief from him. And like I said, following along that day, I felt that because, like I said, I was very in tune with, is he going to flip? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? So for him to kind of see that in real time, I also felt like the one thing I was wondering was I almost felt like, because they knew that announcement was coming at like lunchtime and they scheduled the press conference for when they scheduled the press conference. I kind of wondered if like they did that purposefully so that Ryan Day kind of had something distracting him so that he wasn't just like stewing in his own emotions. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I also, he actually left the podium at one point to take a phone call. And it sounds like when you're kind of piecing the puzzle together, he left the podium to take a phone call. And I'm pretty sure it was actually a phone call from Edric Houston to kind of, figure out what was going on and talk him back into, hey, we still want you. Here's what we can do for you. So I thought that was pretty interesting that maybe that was the kind of the final straw that flipped Houston back towards Ohio State. But yeah, it was kind of a cool moment, I think, for Ryan Day.
So getting to the crown jewel of this class, Jeremiah Smith, and the expectation is, I believe he is the highest rated Ohio State recruit ever that they have signed on the bottom line. And that includes Marvin Harrison. That includes Terry Glenn. That includes
according to, again, this is 24/7 Sports. So people use their own webs. There's different sites you can use. According to 24/7 Sports, he is the 3rd highest ever behind Quinn Ewers and Terrell Pryor.
Okay, so I was just talking wide receivers, but yeah.
Yeah.
To just the big picture, this is a massive recruit, and I think what's interesting is most people scoff at high school recruiting now and say most of these guys aren't going to play, or they're going to play for a different team, or they don't make immediate impacts. I think the expectation is that Jeremiah Smith makes an immediate impact in Columbus. And I think what's interesting is to start with this question, which is, do you think it's on Jeremiah Smith to replace Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I don't think it's on him to do that because I think because Ohio State brings in these top-notch recruits, Brian Hartline's pipeline in terms of just the receivers he gets is so vast at this point. You got Carnell Tate, you got some of these other guys who are going to get touches and looks next year. That I don't think it's all on him, but I do think that he is the type of player that will get to that level. I am fascinated, to your point, in seeing how much playing time he gets in year one, because I do think in this NIL era, I think on some level, these guys want to see playing time sooner rather than later so that you don't see them enter the portal. Now, I think people who are coming to Ohio State, I think they understand that and I think Jeremiah Smith has talked about this. He sees like the proof is in the pudding. Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr. now going, Michael Thomas, who at one point was the best receiver in football, but injuries have kind of derailed his career. He sees that that's a place that develops you. So maybe that entices him to stay more, but that's specific to like that position. So yeah, I think, but either way, I still think like you got to kind of throw him a bone of, hey, we want you to play. We want you to make an impact on these games. So I don't know, like year one, if the expectation should be, oh, he's got to replace Marvin Harrison Jr. But I do think he's going to have that trajectory where maybe the following season, as long as things go okay and he feels like he's still wanted and he knows he's going to have a big role that next year in 2025, that becomes what his kind of how the way we're viewing him. We will view him as the replacement to Marvin Harrison Jr. I think in a year from now.
So I probably should make it clear. I don't think we should expect him to play at the level that Marvin played this last year, where it just felt like anytime that guy got the ball in his hands, he was a touchdown waiting to happen. And where the other team was throwing 2-3 guys at him, and because other teams understood that offense, the success of that offense predicated more on Marvin than it did on Kyle McCord and all that. But I do think at Ohio State, you're not one person is going to replace Marvin, but you might be able to piecemeal the playmaking side of things. I think Carnell Tate has some explosive traits that I think could be really exciting. But I think, listen, I don't think we should put let's just be cautious with Jeremiah Smith. I'm going to assume whatever bag you gave the kid is pretty hefty. I'm going to assume whatever it took to make sure that he didn't flip to Florida State. And again, a lot of the response was he was always going to go to Ohio State. This was his people trying to secure the absolute maximum bag from Ohio State. So, you're paying this kid a mint. This should be the guy. Aaron Nolan, guys, he's, a 4 sub 5-star quarterback. Quarterbacks don't necessarily walk into college as ready-made products, right? Even Edric Houston, 5-star edge rusher. It's no guarantee he's going to show up, day one in Columbus and look like Chase Young or Joey Bosa. But that is the expectation for Jeremiah Smith. Even if he's not Marvin Harrison, and certainly their games are a little bit different here, but the expectation should be that he replaces a healthy amount of the playmaking that you lost with Marvin Harrison, very well likely going to the NFL. And that's to me more how I think it. Mylan Graham, well, he's a step back. And by the way, he's still a 5-star. He's a step under Jeremiah. I don't really have that high. And nobody else. Jeremiah's the guy. This is the third biggest recruit, as you had pointed out, in the history of Ohio State. Expecting day one impact and expecting him to be able to impact a fair amount of Marvin's playmaking, because that's what he is. He is a true playmaker. That's where I'm at with Jeremiah. I think it's okay to have expectations in NIL era for a kid like this.
We also haven't even mentioned Brandon Innes, who was a freshman this year, and he's kind of expected to. He was kind of in the same ilk of Jeremiah Smith coming out last year, the top receiver prospect coming in, maybe not quite as touted in terms of where he ranks all time as an Ohio State recruit, but those two together, I think become your next tandem. It's been Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. Before that, it was Chris Olave and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think Innes and Smith kind of become that dynamic duo that Ohio State has always seemed to have, at least in recent history. So, and Jeremiah Smith actually talked about being excited to come play alongside Innes. So, yeah, I think that I think it's obviously a massive get. I think obviously the expectation should be that he gets to that level. He becomes that playmaker. I'm just not convinced it's going to be in year one, because I think Ohio State continues to kind of preach that, we want you here. We want to develop you, but it's not just going to be a throw the balls out there and you play day one. So we'll see. I think he's going to have an impact. I think he's probably going to play more than most freshmen would. But I don't know if year one I'm sitting here saying he's going to give you what you're missing from Marvin Harrison Jr.
So we've talked a lot about the actual recruits themselves, but we've actually got to talk about the coaching impact of what happened in this early signing period, what this class signifies for Ryan Day, the implications for Brian Hartline and Larry Johnson. We'll get to all that, but first, a word from our sponsors.